Okay, thank you. All right. So a brief overview of what's going to be covered today. So we'll cover our mission. We'll introduce the team. We'll introduce our transfer advisors, our graduate student advisors, our summer plans. We have a guest speaker, E. Nunez from the URC. And finally, we'll have a Q&A to answer some of the questions you have. So why don't we start with our mission? As transfer students last year, we noticed that while we were interested in getting a research position, there's a lot of information we would have liked to know beforehand, before we started, because a lot of the tips and trips you hear about getting a research position comes with experience. So we know that there's undergraduates and transfer students who have done research and who have a lot of information on how to get research opportunities. We have incoming transfer students who, like you guys, want to know how to get started. And our job is to provide a bridge between these two groups of people so that you guys can get the right advice at the right time. So we support incoming transfer researchers by providing a space for workshops and meetings, allowing for transfer students to learn more about the essential skills needed to secure their first research positions. Moreover, UC Davis has not had an official transfer community, and we aim to build that through our organization so that we can support incoming generations of transfer students. And now to briefly introduce the team. I'm Steve. I'm the president of the Transfer Research Society. I'm a biological sciences major, and I do research in Alzheimer's disease at the UC Davis School of Medicine. Some of my hobbies include playing classical guitar, reading history, and just hanging out with my friends.
Hey everyone, my name is Matthew. I'm the vice president. I'm also a rising senior studying biological sciences. I'm currently doing research at Higher Labs, who is doing cancer research with the main focus in a DNA repair mechanism called homologous recombination. So in my free time, I also like to hit the gym. I like to watch K-dramas and just try new restaurants and new foods. So if you're ever interested in like research, me, or K-dramas and stuff like that, feel free to send me a DM on Discord, or my email should be on the website. So feel free to reach me that way as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nam. I am a fourth year biochemistry and molecular biology undergrad. I'm currently not involved in any research, but I've had the opportunity to sort of learn about the different types of research at UC Davis through my professors. My hobbies, I like to play basketball and watch movies with my friends. It's very nice to meet all of you, and I hope I can assist you guys in any way I can.
Hello, my name is Dennis. I am also a fourth year biological sciences major, minoring in psychology. I just recently got into a research position at Bruce Hammock's lab that focuses on pain medicine research and creating a new drug that could replace opioids. For fun, I love listening to metal music and building model kits, as well as playing video games when I have the free time. So if you would like me to answer any questions or just talk about music or models or anything else, feel free to reach out to me on Discord or over email.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Ashatu Dababa, and I'm a fourth year neurobiology major, and I currently doing research as a cure researcher under the UC Davis Comprehensive Cancer Center. And my research focuses on studying brain tumors and their relationship with different proteins. As a hobby, I just like to read and ride bikes.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Christian. I was a a transfer student here at UC Davis studying physics, and now I'm I'm an incoming graduate student in the physics department at Davis. Currently, right now, I'm doing research in. I'm building software for a prototype detector that's going to be implemented at Berkeley National Lab. And in my free time, I like to like read books, listen to music, and eat eat good food. If you ever have any questions, like in general about like the application process of how to get into grad school, or if you're even remotely interested in the grad school, I would be happy to help you out. Yeah, you could just reach out through Discord, or my email is also on the website.
All right. And we also have a growing community of transfer and undergraduate researchers who are involved in research, and they would like to, or they are generally willing to share their tips and research experiences with you guys on our Discord. So some of them include Monica, who does animal biology research, Jose, who does psychology research, Sarah, who also does animal biology research, Juan, who does cognitive science research, Nikita, who does physics, Tu and Sarai, who do chemistry research. We also have graduate students who hop in on our Discord and give tips and tricks on how to get into labs and give good insight into labs. They are ready to share their personal experience in getting involved with research and what they work and look for when talking to undergrads looking for research experience, as well as advice for graduate school. So those are Alyssa, Aaron, and Jacob, and they all do psychology research. Keep in mind, both these groups of advisors are constantly expanding. If you feel like there's a skew towards a certain field, just know that we are constantly evolving. And hopefully, as the year progresses, we'll get more of these students on. So let's go over our plans for summer 2021. We plan on hosting bi-weekly transfer information sessions like this over Zoom. So our next meeting would be on July 10th, titled How to Look for Research Positions / Cold Email People, which would be a Saturday at 6 p.m. 2 weeks after that would be a resume / cover letter workshop on the 24th of July, also at 6 p.m. And then 2 weeks after that would be an interview workshop, or what does a research interview look like, and what to know in a research interview. That would be our last information session for the summer on August 7th, Saturday at 6. We also plan on hosting informal social events because we want to build the transfer community on our Discord every other week starting July 3rd. So that would be next Saturday. So if you're interested, come hop on. I think our first event would just be a casual, everyone hops on the voice channel and just talks with each other. Like I said before, we're very active on our Discord with our transfer and graduate student advisors, and we really try to harbor a friendly and welcoming place for all transfers. And now for our guest speaker. E. Nunez is the Associate Director of the Undergraduate Research Center, and they've been a huge help in helping us get off the ground. They know a lot about the various programs that the URC offers, and they took time out of their day today to talk with you all. So E, why don't you introduce yourself?
Awesome, thank you. So hello everyone, my name is E. Nunez. I am the Associate Director for the Undergraduate Research Center, and I've been on campus. This is my 3rd year on campus, and I just want to give a big shout out to the TRS leadership team. They've been doing amazing. I've just been a sounding board for them, and they've been doing all the work, and I'm super proud to see where the TRS has come from. Where it was just an idea, and now it's a full-blown organization, having a full-blown summer with programming. So that's really great. So what I'm here to talk to you about is about how the URC can help you all find research opportunities, and to also talk a little bit about dismantling some myths around research. So next slide, please. So the mission of the URC is to encourage and facilitate opportunities for research for current undergraduate students in all majors, all class levels, all experience levels. So from people who have potentially transferred here with a lot of experience to folks who have transferred here with no experience, and anything in between, regardless of kind of where you're at in your research journey. The URC and our team really tries to kind of meet you where you're at, understand your goals for research, and try to match you with an opportunity or give you a lead on an opportunity that's going to help you achieve those goals in the best way possible. Next slide, please. So why research, right? Why is research important? I've had students come to me and say, you know, UC Davis is a research one university, and I feel like I should be doing research. I don't know if I should be doing research. I have no idea where to start or a topic, right? And all of that is okay. Or maybe you're coming in and you know, I want to do this exact research, right? And all of that is okay. Research is a really great way to gain what we call transferable skills. And so these are skills that regardless of what type of career you're going to go into, whether you're going to be a full-time researcher, whether you're going to be a software engineer or a franchise owner of a Starbucks, these are transferable skills, are the things that you need to be successful no matter what type of career you have. And those transferable skills are things like communication skills, both orally and written. Being able to work in a team, being able to problem solve, being able to think critically and creatively, you know, things like that, right? And so those are skills that you're going to get in research, right? And so even if you go through a research experience and you're like, you know what, maybe this is not for me, you're still going to walk away with those skills. And I always like to tell students that it's important to know what you want to do with your life and your degree. It's also important to know what is not your cup of tea. So even if you do research and you think it's not for you, that's okay, right? You wouldn't have known it if you didn't try it. I won't know if I like olives unless I try olives, right? And then you can make a decision from there. Career and grad school exploration. You know, a lot of students, especially in this current socio-political environment that we're in, the economy is not doing so great. Students aren't sure if they want to go into the workforce or if they want to go to grad school. And research can really be an opportunity for that exploration. If you want to go into career of research or be a software engineer or anything like that, looking to see like what would it be for me to be a full-time researcher? And same thing with grad school. What would it be to be a graduate student to manage my work, my schoolwork, and research? Because even though research is not required at the undergraduate level, it is absolutely required at the graduate level, right? And so having that exploration to really understand what kind of research do I want to do I even like it, and what kind of research do I enjoy, right? So you'll get that insight to life as a graduate student. Most importantly, probably, is the networking and community building. The field of higher education is very small. And then if you go into your own individual academic areas like biological sciences or farm chem or anything like that, those communities get even smaller, right? And so the networking and the community building is really, really important because you never know when you might meet someone and they end up being on your admissions committee for one of your graduate programs, right? Or they end up being on a job interview committee, a recruitment committee for one of the jobs you're applying for. So the networking is really important. That's not only networking on campus, but networking outside of campus as well by attending workshops, attending conferences, attending webinars and seminars, and talks, those kinds of things. Of course, the biggest reason to do research is to get a strong letter of recommendation, right? If you work even just a quarter with someone on a research project, that's about 10 weeks, give or take. And so they're really going to be able to tell in those 10 weeks where you excel, where are some areas for growth, and how you would benefit of a graduate program, right? And so those recommendation letters are going to be super strong and super solid. And so that's a really great way. And I would say letters of recommendation would also work for jobs, right? Depending on the type of job you're applying for, you might need an actual like written out recommendation letter. Some places just ask for contact information, but either way, that recommendation is going to be really important. Next slide, please. Overcoming the illusion of time. I like to talk about this particular topic with transfer students. Because transfer students come onto campus and they feel like they don't have a lot of time on campus because it's 2 years, right? And when you think of it that way, 2 years goes by in a flash, right? And so really, I like to reframe this concept of time that transfer students have on campus. So a typical summer research experience, if you were to do research in a summer, a typical full-time, 40 hours a week, paid like research experience is going to be anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks long. It is very rare to find a research experience that is like part of a specific program that is any longer than that. If you set up your own independent research over the summer, then it can certainly be longer. But if you're going to take part in a research experience, part of a specific program, anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks. Now, if you think of that and put it on top of the quarters that you have, the time that you have on campus, you have 6 quarters, that's 60 weeks, and 1 summer, right? Potentially 2, depending on how quickly you transition into that next phase of either graduate school or your career, right? So if you think about that way, 60 weeks, if you even take off 1 quarter, even 2 quarters, you still have about 40 weeks and a summer to do research. And you would still be on par in terms of the time of experience and spent doing research as someone who did maybe a summer research experience and a quarter, right? Or a semester and a summer research. So I really like to try to reframe that to show students that yes, you have 2 years on campus. That is absolutely true. And it is also possible to, give yourself some time, especially after being in virtual learning, give yourself some time to get reoriented or maybe even oriented to campus if you've never been on campus yet. And take a quarter to do that. And then start to try to do something maybe in the winter or the spring. And if you're ready to hit the ground running, then by all means, hit the ground running. But I want to bring this up because a lot of times students feel pressured to find a research experience right away, right? So you want to make the most of your time on campus. And obviously that means research, but you also want to show leadership in other ways, participating in clubs and organizations or things like that. So making the most of your time and planning is key. If you know that you're not going to do research within your first or second quarter, then you want to make sure that you have an action plan to be able to set yourself up, to be able to hold yourself accountable for finding that research experience, right? So if you know you're going to take the fall and winter off, make yourself a plan and a timeline and set some really solid, smart goals that you're able to achieve over the fall and winter that will set you up for a really good research position in the spring, right? And so yeah, that's, so I like to talk about this illusion of time because it is true that you have limited time compared to someone who started at a 4-year, but it's not true that you're necessarily quote unquote short on time, especially in the quarter system. Next slide, please. So I want to talk a little bit about how to get involved in research, right? And there really are 2 main pathways to getting involved on campus, at least at our campus. That's the sponsored research program route and the volunteer research units route. So first, let's talk about the sponsored research program route. So this is going to be programs like CAMP, MERPS, McNair, UC Leeds. These are programs that are research sponsored programs that have all of them have a little bit of a commonality. So all of them are going to have a formal application. They're going to ask you for basic demographic information, such as your name, major, GPA. And for transfer students, if you don't have a GPA quite yet at UC Davis, you can use your community college GPA. And then a personal statement, rec letters, and the rec letters, again, if you're just starting out at UC Davis, you can get rec letters from folks over at your community college. So what is this personal statement? It's a personal statement, or sometimes it's called a letter of interest. And so you really want to focus on your motivation and curiosity, as this is often what we're told by faculty members is the most important factor. They would much rather hire someone who has no research experience, but is highly motivated and highly curious than someone who has all of research experience and has very little motivation and very little curiosity, right? Because research is tough. About 75% of research is learning from your mistakes, right? Experiment didn't go right. You've got to go back through your steps and figure out where something went wrong. And then you've got to learn from it and then go back and try it again. Someone who is highly curious and highly motivated is going to be more willing to do those things when the kind of going gets tough with research, right? And so that's for if you have research experience. If you don't have research experience, regardless, you want to focus on your motivation and curiosity, right? And once the application is submitted, there's typically about a 2 to 3 week review period, depending on how many applications a particular program has. And then qualified applicants are typically invited to an interview. These interviews will likely be a panel interview of 2 to 4 folks. The folks that make up the panel can be current or alumni students of that program, current or former faculty members that have supported students from that program, potentially program coordinators or managers who run the program. And for example, like Camp and MERPS, we run through our office in the URC. And so I will often sit in those interviews as well. So just something to kind of think about. And yes, thank you for where can we find these programs. I actually have a matrix that our office made that has most of the sponsored research programs listed, what their names are, what their, kind of like a quick description, any eligibility requirements, any citizenship requirements, if there's a stipend, and the general timeline or time frame for the application is due. So we tried to test it before this to see if it would let me drop it in the chat. And unfortunately, it did not. So I'm going to email it to the leadership of the Transfer Research Society, and they will get it out to you all via Discord, their listserv, and some other places as well. So that's the sponsored research program. Some other commonalities is there typically is a seminar attached to these programs where you are in a classroom or you're in a seminar with other students, other scholars who are in these programs. And those are typically places where professional development take place, how to write an abstract, how to effectively communicate your research, how to write a proposal for a conference, how to give a good public talk, those kinds of things, right? Guest speakers, things like that. Most of these programs also have some sort of funding. They have what's called a stipend, is basically how you get paid for your research. I do want to say that if you are, for example, McNair is a program that has funding during the summer for their scholars, but during the academic year, they do not fund their scholars. So if you find yourself applying for a program and you get admitted and you're very excited and then you find out that there's no funding, if you have work study, please make sure that you let your program coordinator, manager, director, let them know. Because if you have work study, you are essentially guaranteeing your payment, your ability to get paid for your research, whether you're in a sponsored research program or a volunteer research unit opportunity. So if you have work study, make sure that the folks who run or are in charge of your research experience know that from the jump, so that way you can make sure to get paid. So let's move over to the volunteer research units. So this is kind of like independent research, right? That's set up by the student directly. Now the applications vary. This is where students find a lot of frustration in the research search process. Some faculty will have a very formal process while others will not. Some people won't even put on their website if they're hiring for positions, right? If there's no formal application, treat or any indication if they have positions open, when you start cold emailing folks, you want to treat your email like an application, right? So you want to treat your email like a cover letter and making sure to attach your resume or CV in a PDF version. And that PDF version is really important. I've seen a lot of students just send links to their Google Drive. Please don't do that because it doesn't always work if a faculty member is opening that from like their home device or something like that. It doesn't always work. So just make sure that it's a attached PDF, and a PDF is important so that way your formatting stays the same. And there'll typically be some interview process. Now, again, these can be a panel. These can be just you and the faculty member or the lab manager, or whoever is in charge of that research project. They can vary from being super formal, where they have a set list of questions, to really informal. I've seen faculty kind of quote unquote interview students while they're having coffee or while they're having lunch with each other or things like that. So again, the volunteer research units route, students do find a lot of frustration because there's no centralized process on our campus. However, if putting in that time and effort and you plan out your action plan, it can be a little less frustrating, right? Now, for the research units, what does that mean? You can sign up if you are volunteering at a lab and you want to get compensated, which I recommend always get compensated for your time if you can. You can get compensated by getting paid or like money or getting research units. And research units basically are the amount of time you spend each week equals the amount of units you get. So for example, if you say to a faculty member, I have 10 to 12 hours I can commit to per week, then that is going to be about 2 units, right? So 0 to 6 units, or sorry, 0 to 6 hours is 1 unit. And then 7 to 10 hours is 2 units, and so on and so forth, right? So that's really great because if you have a particular amount of time that you can, like, let's say you're like, I have 8 hours to commit to research each week, you can still get compensated with that through the research units. Now, if someone says, you know, I can't do research units, again, if you have that work study, make sure to let your faculty members know and let them know, I have work study. Is it okay if I use my work study for this placement? If they don't know the answer, hopefully they will say, let me find out. If they say, I don't know how to do that, feel free to email me and I will walk you through that, you and your faculty member through that process. So that's kind of the 2 main pathways of how to get involved, right? Next slide. So sponsored research programs, again, this is where I was going to drop the matrix for you all to refer to. Again, that will be sent out via email, Discord, all that good stuff. So next one. So for the volunteer research units, folks often ask, where do I find these? Is there a portal of some sort? Well, I can tell you right now that there's no portal currently, a comprehensive portal. However, the URC and so we at the URC are hoping to create a research database that is going to begin to track or collect the various research opportunities on our campus. That is still in the developmental stages, and we hope to pilot it in the fall. And so that is definitely in the works because it is a severe need on our campus. Other places that you can find research experience would be, you know, the Genome Center or the Medical Center, the vet school, those kinds of things. Even as an undergraduate student, you have access to the medical school, the vet school, the nursing school, the School of Business, the law school. You can be an undergrad and be doing research those places as well. If you have a general interest, like let's say you are interested in pharmacy, right? You want to think, where on campus in terms of departments would my research live, right? So pharmacy, maybe it's pharmaceutical chemistry, maybe it's in the med school, depending on what kind of things you want to do in pharmacy, maybe it's somewhere else in a lab. So think about if my research interest were to live somewhere, where would it be? And go to that website and start to look for research opportunities there. If that still is not helpful, you can always, at the URC, we do offer group advising appointments where we work with students, both in a group setting and one-on-one via breakout rooms. We'll be doing it in person now, but we work with folks to understand what are your goals? What are your interests? And then we try to connect you to leads that are going to help you achieve those goals. Next slide. I think that's it. Yes. So again, feel free to email me. I'm going to drop my email in the chat. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to send the matrix to the leadership for TRS, and then they will disseminate it to you via their channels. But feel free to reach out to me with any questions to do with research or campus in general, honestly. If I don't know the answer, we'll figure it out together, or I'll find someone who has the answer for us. And yeah, I'll look forward to your questions during the Q&A session.
Thank you, E, for sharing a lot of that information. That was a wealth of information. I'm sure we all appreciate it. So like I said before, if you're interested in what we do, come hang out with us. Feel free to join our Discord server to chat with us. We're pretty active and eager to answer any questions, whether it's about research, UC Davis as a whole, or just to share some memes. So I think one of my officer team can put the link of the Discord in the chat. You can also check out our website and join our mailing list for any updates we have on future events and activities on our website. So that would be www.trsociety@ucd.com. And finally, the last part of our introductory meeting is our Q&A session. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to raise your hand and unmute yourself, or if you want to put it in the chat, one of our officers will read it and we'll answer it there.
Right, question in the chat. If you're working in 2 labs at once, how would research unit allocation work in this situation? Would I add the hours up in both labs, or would the unit allocation be separate for each lab?
Great question. So each faculty member manages their research units individually. So if you're working in 2 labs and you're getting research units for both experiences, then it'll be separate, right? So you would get maybe 2 units in one and 3 units in another, depending on how many hours you're working in the lab. Great question, though.
All right, another question. If we have identified a lab we'd like to work in, can you provide some advice on what steps we should take next to give ourselves the best chances?
I can kind of give a little bit of insight on this. So if you've identified a lab and you know that they accept undergrads, I think probably the best thing to do right now is, one, prepare like a proper resume and CV so that you can attach it to your email if you want to cold email them. Another thing you could probably do is start reading their research. Maybe take like an hour or 2 to skim through some of the papers they've written in the past, or if they have a description on the website, skim through that as well. And that'll just like give you a bit more background on their lab and help you prepare kind of like a resume and CV to present yourself professionally, right? And then the next step I'd probably take is probably try emailing the PI You could also try emailing the grad student, or if they have a lab manager, it can sometimes be a bit more responsive if it's a bigger lab, because the PI usually they get bombarded with emails and it might get lost in their inbox. So cold email them, and then probably structure it well. Make sure it's kind of short and brief. I'll definitely be going over how to do this and in our next information session on like how to cold email and find research positions. But the general gist of it is kind of like structure it briefly to introduce yourself, show your interest in their research by kind of referencing some of their past research works, like papers or some of the things that you read. And if you have a question about the research, that's also a good thing to put in the email as well. And then try and ask to set up a meeting with them so you can talk with them one-on-one. And then attach your resume and or CV to the email, and then hopefully you get a response. So yep.
And I know, Marcella, you raised your hand. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question. So I took a look at the Undergraduate Research Center's website, specifically the Get Started portion. And I see that the first step to get started is explore your interests and find faculty in research areas that interest me. And I found a few topics that I'm interested in, and faculty members who are involved in those research. So and that in that list, or that and those faculty members was from 2020. So I'm just assuming, like, I'm just wondering, like, what happens from there? Like, do I want to send them a cold email? Do I want, like, yeah, I think that's my concern. Like, I already have an idea of what I want to do. So yeah, that would be my question.
Yeah, so basically I'd say probably like a similar answer to what the other person asked as well, because they already knew like kind of the lab they wanted to work in. So probably the next best step, if they're not involved in any programs or things like that, probably the next best step would be to cold email the PI or a lab manager or a grad student or postdoc in their lab, asking if you can work with them or set up a interview or meeting with them to talk one-on-one, and prepare a resume, read the research. So yeah, that's probably the best next step.
And yeah.
One thing I'll say also is many labs, if the faculty member has a lab, many labs will list who their research team is, and that'll include them as the PI, that'll include any graduate students, lab managers, undergraduates, things like that. So I would look at that list and see if by chance you know someone who works there, and you can kind of contact them and say, hey, how did you get into this lab, right? Or what are some of the tips you have? Or can I'm really interested in this lab. Would you be willing to chat with me about kind of what's the best strategy to make myself stand out? Because the thing is that many faculty members will ask their lab team and say, do you know this person? Does anyone have any experience with this person? And so if you ask a lab member, they'll be able to say, oh, they reached out to me because they were interested and we actually had a chance to talk, and here's my thought of them. It becomes like a pseudo recommendation, which can really work in your advantage. And I would say you can do that with graduate students, lab managers, anyone really that's listed on the website.
Right. I guess the next question on the list: how do I know what research fits my major? So basically, what type of research should I be looking for to sort of align with my major and what I'm interested in?
Good question. I would say when it when it comes to research in your major, okay, so for microbiology, there's a lot of different research areas in microbiology. That's true. I think it's pretty open to you. You can decide what you're interested in. I remember when I was looking for my research experiences, I wanted to take part in clinical research, but I wasn't exactly sure on what field I wanted to go into, whether it was cardiology or pulmonology or neurology. So I looked at all those labs and I applied to a lot of them in that kind of spectrum. So I would say, look at all the labs that are in that department, and if you think something remotely interests you, send that person an email, explaining your position, explaining how you want to talk with them more about their lab, or you could even read their research and think like, is this something I would like to spend hours of my time doing?
I can add one more thing for Lawrence Fang. So I had the same question when I started my research, and what I did was major and interests, you can divide them. They don't have to be the same thing. So I have a friend who is majoring in neurobiology. She's doing research and the plant biology. For me, when I started, I was a neurobiology major, but I ended up doing my research in veterinary medicine. So currently I'm doing veterinary medicine that focus on like dog brain cancer and stuff. So for me, like separating those two things, your major and interest, is the best way. The other thing is, what do you want to do in the future? So what is your goal? Where do you want to take the microbiology to, right? Why did you choose microbiology? Then what do you want to do after? So that kind of helps you build that bridge, right? After I finish microbiology, I don't know. Are you a pre-med? Are you, I don't know where your goal is. Yep.
Right, question in the chat. Can someone place a cold or a template for a cold email to the professor asking for a research position?
Okay, in regards to a template, it's a bit tough to make a standardized template for every professor. A lot of it is because you do want it to be unique. When you send that email out, you want to show them that you care about their research, that you've read it. And that's kind of one of the first steps that you should do, is read their research before you send that first email. That being said, we do have cold email tips on our Discord. I think if you go on our job postings channel and you scroll up, and we can always post it again, we have some general tips on how to write an effective cold email if you are interested in that. And of course, this will also be covered later on too in our next information session.
Is the TRS or the URC planning to host any workshops or events geared toward applying to grad school in the near future?
So the URC definitely will. We often host, workshops on how to highlight your research in your personal statement, how to make sure that you're effectively communicating the skills that you gain through research. So we definitely do that in the fall and winter quarter, because that's when folks start thinking about, or at least students who are getting ready to graduate start thinking about graduate school. We'll definitely do some.
And from the TRS's end, well, one thing I do recommend you check out are general graduate school associations here at Davis. A couple of them do have networking sessions for undergrads throughout the year. I think, I attended one where you were just face to face with grad students in a variety of different fields, and you could, talk about their research or aspects of grad school, and it was a fantastic networking experience. In terms of the TRS, we do have plans to interact with graduate student associations and have networking sessions, but that's still in the future and still a work in progress.
Okay, next question. If we email labs for research positions now, would we be able to get one for the summer, or would it be for a fall position?
I could answer that. So I actually got into a research position last week for this summer, and you could totally get a position for the summer or for this fall. I would recommend when you reach out to the professor to to tell them whether you're interested in something for the fall or something for right now. And I do know that labs are accepting of incoming transfers. We actually have one person in the Discord that was able to, that's an incoming transfer and just recently was able to get a research position. The only thing I would keep in mind though is that some labs are going back in person right now, or most are. So if you would want to look for something that's virtual, you would have to specify that in the email. Otherwise, you might have to look into moving up to Davis a little bit earlier than September. But yeah, I would communicate with the professor you're reaching out to. And a lot of them will consider taking somebody on in the fall, and it's not something that's immediate.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, we had another student in our Discord who was actually able to secure a research position for the fall. So, you know, you just have to specify that in your email. But yeah, they do accept incoming transfers.
And just a little off topic from that question, but like related. A lot of labs are accepting of incoming transfers, and they don't require any prior experience. This is mainly because, like, you know, when you join a lab, they're going to be teaching you basically everything you need to know. And each lab kind of varies in what they do. So like one lab might utilize more biochemistry and protein techniques, if we're talking about like, you know, biology research, or another lab might do more like genetics, or, you know, work a lot more with bacteria cells, or like another lab might work with eukaryotic cells, things like that. So a lot of those things vary, and you know, you don't need any prior research experience. Although I do believe some labs do, and they're usually they're a bit more specific about that, you know. But I think the majority of labs typically, if you're an undergrad, you don't need any prior experience, so don't hesitate to, you know, just cold email them and reach out.
And does anyone else have any last questions they'd like to get out? All right, so I think we'll wind it down for now. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to, again, join our Discord and ask questions there. We're always available, or we're always ready to answer your questions. But apart from that, thank you for attending our first event. We really do appreciate having you all here, and we hope to see you for future events. All right. And of course, thank you, E, for coming. Always appreciate your support.